Krystal Everdeen, and today I want to show you how I crocheted this princess puff sleeve top inspired by Disney Princess Cinderella. For this project I'm using size 4 yarn from the brand Red Heart Super Saver Jumbo, and if you want the exact same yarn I'm using, I will leave my Amazon affiliate links in the description box below. You can also get the same hook that I'm going to be using for today's project. It is a size 5mm hook. And the first thing that we're going to do is grab our yarn and create a slip knot. Now if you're a complete beginner to crochet and are not familiar with single crochet or chains or how to make a slip knot or how to hold your hook, I do have a crocheting for beginners video linked in the description box below for you to practice with first, and then you could come back to this one or try some more beginner friendly tutorials first and then try this one. But again, it is linked in the description box below. So from here, after you've made your slip knot, you're going to put your hook through it, and then you're going to chain a chain that is long enough to cover from one side of the back of your rib cage to the other side, essentially from here to here. So after you have completed chaining the chain that is long enough to reach from one part of your body to the other, again from here to here, then we're going to continue on by making rows of single crochet, but just as a kind of guidance, I actually chained 72 chains, and I'm normally a size extra small to small depending on the top. A lot of people usually ask me how many I chain, and that's how many I chained, so it's 72 chains for me, but of course just go by your body type and it will fit you the best. So from here we're going to again make single crochets, and to make a single crochet you're going to go into the stitch, yarn over, go back through the stitch, then yarn over once again and go through the 2 loops left on your hook. So we're going to go through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, yarn over through the last 2 loops left on your hook. And you're just going to continue with this pattern all along the chain until you reach the very end. And then once we reach the very end, I'll go ahead and show you what we do. But yeah, all you have to do is go all along the chain and make single crochets. And again, if this is too fast for you, then I do have that crochet for beginners video linked in the description box below. So yeah, I will see you once I get to the end of the chain. So now I am at the end of the row here, so I'm going to make sure that I go into every single stitch, especially the very last stitch of the row. And after I've gone into the very last stitch of the row, I'm going to chain 1, then flip the project over, then go into the very first stitch of the new row, which is very, very important. That's what's going to make sure that our edges are straight. And from here we're just going to make sure that we go into, of course, every single stitch after that with another row of single crochet on top of the previous row of single crochet. And that is essentially the pattern until we get to the actual like sleeve portion, because for the bodice of the top we're just going to make one big rectangle, and that's all you have to do. You have to make rows and rows of single crochet, and then at the end you're going to make sure that the edges are straight by going into the very last stitch of every row, chaining 1, flipping the project over, and then going into the very first stitch of the new row, and the edges will be nice and straight. So yeah, from here I'm just going to continue making more and more rows of single crochet, and then once I reach the end, do what I just explained to you. And if you need another visual, I'll go ahead and do it one more time when I get to the end of this row. So again, I am towards the end of the row here, so I'm going to make sure that I go into every single stitch, including this very, very last stitch, and then from here I'm going to chain 1, flip the project over, then go into the very first stitch of the new row. If you accidentally skip that very, very first stitch and go into the second stitch thinking that it's actually the first stitch, but it's not, then you're going to notice that your project is going to start decreasing and curving inward like this, which you do not want. You want those edges nice and straight, so make sure that you follow along and go into the very last stitch of every row, chain 1, then go into the very first stitch of the new row, and your edges will look nice and clean and straight, which is exactly what we want for this portion of the project. And yeah, that's essentially the pattern until you create a large enough project so that when you put it against yourself as if you're going to wear it, as if it were a top, and you are happy with the coverage, that's when you'll know that you are done with this portion of the project. So again, you're just going to continue making rows and rows of single crochet until this is a very large rectangle. Then you put it against your body as if you're going to wear it. And once you're happy with the coverage, then we can move on to the next step. So yeah, instead of me repeating the same thing over and over again, I'm just going to show you a few clips of my progress and what the project should look like along the way. And then just skip to where we're going to move on to the next portion of the project. So this is what my project looks like right now after just a couple rows of single crochet. And this is what the project looks like a few more rows after that. So still not quite halfway there, but this is what it looks like, and I just wanted to show you how straight my edges are, and hopefully yours look like that too because you're following that pattern. But yeah, you're just going to continue making more and more, and I'll check in with you again soon. So now I'm about halfway there. So again, all I do is put the project against my body as if I were going to wear it, and then kind of pinpoint how much I need left. So I put this against my body and it barely covers my chest, so now I need to work on making it longer so it covers all the way down to my belly button because that's how long I want this top to be. So yeah, I'm about halfway there, just keeping up with the same pattern that I described to you guys earlier. And these are my edges here, nice and straight, so hopefully yours look like that too. But yeah, I'm just going to continue on and complete this top, so the next time I check in I will be done with this portion of the project, and then we can move on to the next step. But again, all you have to do is make rows and rows of single crochet until you're happy with the length. Okay, so I have officially crocheted enough rows of single crochet for me to be happy with the length of the top. Again, mine is going to be a crop top, so if it looks way too small for you, that's okay. You could always lengthen your top as much as you want. Just make more and more rows of single crochet. Again, once you put the project against yourself and you're happy with the length, then you can move on to this next step. And this next step is to make the straps. So we're going to first make the straps for this. And it's going to be kind of a corset style. So we're going to make two really long straps here and here. And then we're going to lace them in the back. So it's going to have a really pretty lace design. So the top, the bodice will be complete after we do that. And then we'll move on to the actual puff sleeves. So from here, you're going to start where you left off, and you're just going to chain a really long chain. So of course, like everything else, it's going to be different for everybody, and I would suggest just doing trial and error to figure out how many chains you need to do. But for me, I chain 150 chains, and that is enough for me to have enough of the strap for me to lace through the back, and then also have enough to actually tie in the back. So again, I'm going to make 150 chains. You may need to make more or less depending on your size and preference. But if you were curious, I'm going to make 150 chains from right here. So now that I have made my 150 chains, I'm going to actually go back on this chain with a slip stitch. And a slip stitch is really easy. You just need to go through the stitch, yarn over, go back through the stitch, and then also through that loop left on your hook. So it's through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, and then through the loop that's left on your hook. So it's even easier than a single crochet. So yes, through the stitch, and then yarn over, back through the stitch, and then through the loop left on your hook. And the reason I do this is, I actually have two reasons. So one of them is so that the strap is a little bit thicker and more sturdy. And then also the other reason is because I do not want to detach the yarn from the yarn ball and then reattach it to the other side. But if you do want to do that, then totally up to you. What I'm going to do is slip stitch my way all along the chain that I just created, and then I'm going to single crochet my way all across to the other side, and then make another chain of 150 once I get here. So you could do exactly what I'm doing, or you can just make your chain of 150 and then reattach your yarn to this corner to make your other strap. Again, totally up to you, but this is what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and go all along this chain with a slip stitch, and I will meet you once I am done with the second strap on the other side. So now I am officially done crocheting both of the straps, and again all I did was chain a chain of 150 from one side, and then I went back on it with a slip stitch, and then once I reached this point I single crocheted my way across the top to the other side where I chained 150 again, and then went back on it with a slip stitch until I got to this point. So from here we're actually done crocheting the bodice of the top and have just created a strapless top. All we need to do now is actually lace up the back, and to do that you just need to grab your strap, bring it on over to the opposite side, and then kind of align it to where you want them to be attached to, and then you're going to bring it to the opposite side again and figure out where you want it to be attached to, and then bring it on over to the opposite side one last time, and then align it to the bottom of the top, making sure that wherever you're going to attach them to are fairly even with one another. So this is even, and then this is even, and it'll look nice and symmetrical. So from here you're going to again grab your strap, and then you're going to bring it on over through the stitch that you aligned it with, and then you're going to grab it again and bring it over to the opposite side, and then bring it through that stitch with your hook, and lastly you're going to grab it one more time and then attach it to the bottom of the top the exact same way, and you should have enough strap to also be able to tie your project at the bottom. So make sure that you have extra strap here so you could actually tie the top at the bottom and tighten it and loosen it however you want. So from here you're going to do the exact same thing with the other strap. So you kind of need to align it, figure out where you're going to attach it to, make sure everything is nice and symmetrical. And once you've figured out where you're going to attach everything, you're just going to go ahead and do it. So you're going to go to this stitch and you're going to bring the strap over with your hook, and then you're going to bring it over to the opposite side and then attach it through the stitch you want to have it in, and then you're going to do that one last time to complete the lace up look. Bring it over to the opposite side to the bottom of the top, and then bring the entirety of the strap through with your hook. And after you've done that, then you are completely done with lacing up your top, and you've just created a strapless crochet top. So again, you definitely need some strap left over to actually tie it. So that's how you tie it, and that's what it looks like in the back. Really, really cute. Okay, so now for the actual puff sleeve portion of the project. So from here, we're going to figure out exactly where you want your straps to be, or rather your sleeve to be. So I would suggest you actually trying this on or just put it against your body and then kind of pinpoint where you want your strap to begin in the front and in the back, because we're going to be making a chain that's going to serve as the armhole of your sleeve. So it's going to start from the front and then end in the back. So you need to figure out, one, where you want your sleeve to be, and two, how wide you need your armhole to be. So again, just try and figure that out. Okay, so I've pinpointed the 2 stitches in the front and back where I want to make my sleeve. So I'm just going to work my way over to the first area. This is going to be on the back because I'm working on the back, since this is where the back of the top is. And then I'm going to make a chain and attach it to the front portion, and that's going to serve as the armhole of my sleeve. So from here, I'm going to make a chain, and I don't know how many I'm going to make, but I'm going to make quite a few, and then I'm going to try it on as if I were going to wear it and make sure that it's not too tight and it'll serve as a good armhole. So let's see, is that going to be enough for me to feel comfortable it wrapping around my shoulder, or is that too tight? It looks a little bit too tight, so I'm just going to make a couple more and then I'm going to try it on. So I ended up actually making 50 chains, which seems like a lot, but again, I tried on the top and made sure that that's what I needed in order for it to actually fit my arm. So I made 50 chains, and now I'm going to take this chain and attach it to the stitch that I indicated earlier where I know I want my sleeve to start. So I'm just going to slip stitch that together. So now I have a strap here, and that's going to serve as my sleeve. So from here, I'm going to make sure that I crochet outward this way, away from the rest of the top, because this is where I want my sleeve to be. So I'm going to be crocheting this way, and we're just going to be building and building and building on top of this strap to make it a sleeve. And for the first 2 rows, it's going to be single crochet, and then the rest is actually going to be double crochet. So from here you have this chain, and what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet on top of it twice. So you're just going to go back on that chain and single crochet all the way down to the other side. And then once you reach the other side, you're going to single crochet your way back to this point again. I have just completed 1 row of single crochet on the chain, and I just wanted to show you that now that I'm at the end of the chain or the row, I'm actually going to single crochet my way 1 this way. And what I mean by this way, I mean again away from the top where you want the sleeve to actually be made, like in that direction, this way, as opposed to this way. It would be such a shame if you accidentally started crocheting everything towards this way and your sleeve will be flipped. So make sure that all of your stitches from now on are towards that way, especially in the beginning, because at the beginning it could get a little bit tricky because you haven't really established your sleeve yet. So always make sure that you are crocheting outwards. But yeah, so now that I've completed my first row of single crochet for the sleeve, I'm just going to complete my second, and then we can go ahead and get started on the double crochets, which I will show you how I do. But yeah, once you've made that single crochet at the end of the first row, just go ahead and make the second row of single crochet on top of the one that you just created until you get to the end of the row. Again, I made it to the end of the row, and now I'm going to single crochet my way 1 over, of course this way. So this is what the sleeve looks like so far, and overall this is what it looks like. So from here on end, we're actually going to start using a double crochet, just because I think it looks better with the puff sleeve design as opposed to everything being single crochet. I just wanted the first 2 rows of the sleeve to be single crochet just because I think it adds a little bit of fun design to the whole look in general, and it's easier to establish the strap with a single crochet. So from here, instead of going back and forth like we were just now, we're actually going to go in a circle now. So in addition to changing the stitch to double crochet, we're also going to be working in a circle now. So you can see the sleeve hole as it is, and from here we're just going to be going around and around and around and around using a double crochet. So not only does the double crochet add a little bit of flair and design to the look, but I think that it also helps make the actual puff sleeve, just because it is a larger stitch than a single crochet that we've been using, so it stands out, and it also makes the stitch more airy and larger, which in turn makes the sleeve poofier. Speaking of double crochet, if you're unfamiliar with what a double crochet is yarn over through the stitch, yarn over back through the stitch, yarn over through 2 loops left on your hook, and then yarn over through the last 2 loops left on your hook. Again, it is yarn over through the stitch, yarn over back through the stitch, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through the last 2 loops. Yarn over through the stitch, yarn over back through the stitch, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through the last 2 loops. And this is what the stitch looks like in comparison to the single crochet we've been using. And at first you probably won't see much of a difference, but after a few more rows of double crochet, you'll definitely see that it starts to get wider and wider, and that's actually what we want with these puff sleeves here. So again, you're just going to continue going around in that circle that you created with the strap, and then partially along the actual top itself. So we're gonna go all along the strap, and then partially along the actual top itself, and then all along the strap, and then along the top itself, in a circle, in a circle, in a circle, until you're actually happy with the size of your sleeve. But I'll go ahead and show you the progress so you have an idea of what it looks like after you continue making rows and rows of double crochet. So this is what the project looks like after one row of double crochet on top of the 2 rows of single crochet that we made for the sleeve. And as a whole, this is what the project looks like. So little by little, we're building this sleeve, and the more rows that we create, the more it will actually look like a short sleeve. And then of course, because we're using the double crochet against the single crochet, it's going to naturally puff out. And then I'll show you how to make it smaller in the end. That way the middle portion of the sleeve will be nice and puffy, and then it will tighten in the end, making a cute little puff sleeve. So all you need to do is continue making rows and rows of double crochet until you are happy with the length of the sleeve. So I'm just going to make a couple more, and then I'll show you the progress. So once you're happy with the length of your sleeve, or the width of it, the size of it, and you want to start closing it off, so this is not the entire sleeve, but pretty close to what I want it to be. But now we need to make it smaller in the end to again make that puff shape. So from here on, I'm actually going to start skipping stitches. So every 5 stitches or so, I'm going to skip a stitch. So say I just made 5 stitches, so I'm just going to skip over this stitch and then make a double crochet inside of the next stitch. And then from here, I'm just going to make 5 double crochets in a row. So it's 2, and this is 3, and 4, and 5 double crochets. And then I'm just going to go ahead and skip this next one over here and go into the following stitch with a double crochet. And what that's going to do is, little by little, it's going to make your sleeve smaller and smaller, because it is decreasing the number of stitches per row since you are skipping a stitch. So you're decreasing the number of stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and skip this one, and little by little you'll be able to see that the sleeve will get smaller and smaller. And pro tip, if you want the sleeve to get smaller faster, just skip more often, and if you want this sleeve to get smaller slower, then skip less often. So yeah, just go ahead and do that, and after a couple of rows you'll be able to see that your sleeve is starting to close in. And then once it's close to closing in on your arm, so just try it around your arm to see if it fits properly, then we could end off the entire sleeve with 2 more rows of single crochet just to make it nice and cute. So after just a couple more rows of decreasing or skipping that stitch every so often, this is what the sleeve looks like. As you can tell, it's now more puffy than anything, which is perfect. The combination of the large stitch with the decreasing at the end has made it like puff out, which is exactly what we want. So I made sure to keep going until the armhole was just big enough to barely fit my arm, well, fit it comfortably, so make sure that it's comfortable. So now that I made it to the point where this is as wide as I want to go, so I don't want to make it any smaller, I'm going to make 2 rows of single crochet just to give it a little bit of a flare. So from here I'm going to switch off from using that double crochet to a single crochet. So again, 2 rows of single crochet, and then I'll be done with this puff sleeve. And then once I am done. I'll show you what it looks like, and then I'm just going to go ahead and do the exact same thing over on the other side. So now that I've completed my 2 rows of single crochet, this is what the puff sleeve looks like. It looks super duper cute, super fluffy and big. I love it so much. Now I'm going to detach the yarn from the yarn ball and reattach it to the other side and do the exact same thing all over again to make my second puff sleeve. That's right, I do have to detach the yarn from the yarn ball at this point. Unfortunately, there's no way for me to like crochet my way across and avoid detaching it, but that's okay. So I'm going to cut the yarn from the yarn ball, and then I'm going to bring the excess yarn through the last loop, except I kind of made it long, so I'm going to make 1 more single crochet, and then I'm going to bring the excess yarn through the last loop like so, and then I'm going to tuck it in so it doesn't stick out. And after that, I am done with my first sleeve on one side, and this is what the project looks like. Super duper cute so far. So again, all I'm going to do now is reattach the yarn to this side and then repeat the process of making the sleeve all over again until I make the second sleeve. And then after I'm done with the second sleeve, I'll be completely done with this princess puff sleeve top. And after you've crocheted your second sleeve, then you are completely done crocheting this puff sleeve princess top, or just a regular crochet puff sleeve top. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, found it interesting, entertaining, or helpful, please give it a big thumbs up before you go. And also don't forget to click that red subscribe button if you have not already, so I can see you next time. Bye! And have a magical day.
These days, under the sun together. These days, let's make them last forever. These days, let's hope they last forever.